Hi everybody, this is Mike Handcock. I'm the chairman of the Circle of Excellence Group. And for those of you that are watching who do know me, then you'll pretty much know that whilst I'm exceptionally quiet and sort of run behind the scenes a little bit, I can be incredibly outspoken as well, and I can be incredibly direct. So the purpose of this call is because what I've seen already in the 5 countries that I've been to this year and hunkered down here in South Africa at the moment in self-isolation. And what I'm doing right at the moment is I'm calling us out. So I'm calling us out, and that means I'm calling you out, I'm calling me out, I'm calling lots of people out, because if we think that the coronavirus, or COVID-19 as it's called now, started because somebody ate a bat or an armadillo, that's just a very, very small part of it. It started because of many, many other reasons. And unfortunately, what we're experiencing at the moment is something that the ancient people have been talking for a long time. And they've been talking about this. They've been talking about a global cleansing. A global cleansing. It doesn't sound very cool, does it? But in fact, it's what's actually happening at the moment. Is that, you know, we're going to see people eradicated off the planet. In Australia already this year, we've seen 1 billion animals eradicated off the planet. Already we found out last year that the birds are leaving New Zealand. The Maori elders are dying off. We're seeing a max exodus at the moment of different people that are actually leaving the planet right at the moment. And so don't be scared. This is just something that's happening. This is a reassuring, and it's probably better to have a coronavirus than to have a polar shift or a meteor hit the planet. And if you do your research on the Younger Dryas period and the turnaround of meteors hitting the planet, there's another big one planned for 2030, but not too many people have told us about that. So this global cleansing is real. So what should you do? What should I do at the moment? I've called us out. We caused this. So you and I caused this by our way of living. You and I caused this by the way we see the world, by us being so materialistic over the last number of years. So what do we do now? Now is our time to become responsible to others. And what does that mean? So Lundy Jack and I are hunkered down in a hotel apartment in Cape Town, South Africa, doing our self-isolation for the next 14 days. And, you know, we may extend past that. You need to be responsible as well. Sure, we've got some people dropping us off groceries, but we're telling them to leave it outside, don't come to our room, don't even walk in the paths in which we're walking in, simply because we've been traveling. We've been to 5 countries already this year. We've been on lots of airlines already. We typically do 65 flights a year. So we've probably already done 10 or 15 this year, maybe even more flights than that. So be responsible. We have a 91-year-old grandmother that is Lundy's grandmother. We'd love to see her, but we're not going to see her. You need to be responsible. You need to consider what you're doing with your rubbish. You need to consider your friends and family. You need to consider that if you need essential items, can they be dialed in rather than going to the supermarket, even if you feel fine? I feel fine, but it doesn't mean to say that I'm not carrying even part of the virus. And remember that this virus, as we've found out from some of our mentors and people that we study around the world, it's not a living thing. So you can't kill the virus. The virus isn't live. You can carry it and it can expand within you. So it's not something you can kill off by eating more healthily or anything like that, although there are some things that you can do. Black elderberries is one of them, I believe, more vitamin C, mushrooms. If you've got a sauna at your house, if you're in one of those beautiful places in the world, Scandinavia, get in that sauna. The virus can't exist in more than 56 degrees. So why is this happening? I've been saying this for over 10 years, since we actually launched our Mayan Prophecy Tour in around about 2008, held the tour in 2009, all around the Mayan prophecies, which was 2012, the end of the earth. And there has been a significant readjustment that's needed to happen, because we are living out what's happened on this planet many, many more times. We're living very greedily. We're all wanting more. So if you think that we're the first society that's ever been on this planet, well, you need to do your research. If you'd been standing on a hilltop with us in Göbekli Tepe in eastern Kurdish Turkey a few years ago, when I was explaining to the group what was underneath these hills, and we saw the civilized society that existed 12,000 years ago, it's not the same as what we were taught at school, that society is only 5,000 years old. Society has been through many iterations, many global cleansings, many of the sixth cleansing. Some people are saying that we're expecting the sixth cleansing on this planet. You know, the meteor that killed the dinosaurs was one of them. As I said earlier, there's another meteor expected around 2030. But we can change this. We're in control. You see, we as physical matter simply come from light, and light simply comes from sound. It's basic quantum physics. So anything that you're experiencing at the moment is your reality, and that can be changed. So the first thing that I think that we all should change is our relationship with greed, meaning keeping up with the Joneses, trying to buy the latest Ferrari, Mercedes-Benz, house by the beach, having the best clothes, etc., etc. Now is a great mirror for us to live more simply, to simply live in harmony with the people around us, the people that we love. It's also a time to be discerning. So many of us in our lives have been pleasers for other people. We try and make things work. We'll help any client because, hell, they're a client and a customer's always right. None of that is true. In fact, what is right for you to live joyfully and simply in today's world. And, you know, if you're so attached that you just have to have a new Mercedes, well, guess what? There's going to be some great deals on new Mercedes right at the moment. But more importantly is a fantastic time for you and for me to sit back and say, well, what do I truly want for my life? I remember a number of years ago now, before Lundy and I met, I said to a number of people, well, here I am in my 40s and I've ticked off everything in my bucket list. There's nothing else I want to do. And luckily when Lundy and I met, I found so many more reasons to have things on my bucket list. So you too should have things on your bucket list. But as a fascinating aside, being somebody who's, I don't like the word coached, but mentored many people over many, many years, I always ask them this question, what do you want? And they start with, I'd love to have $1 million. Okay, what do you really want? Well, I'd love to have a successful business. Okay, what do you really, really want when it breaks it all down? Well, I'd love to just have time to walk on the beach and enjoy my children and enjoy my family. Well, that's the simple pleasures and the simple gifts that life gives us. And I definitely think that now is the time where you can take those simple pleasures. Sit in your backyard, have a cool drink, admire the trees and the plants, think about your life. Because we've been hurting this planet. And this planet is pretty resilient, but this planet is fighting back. And I'm so glad that it's fighting back with something that really we can control to a certain extent, rather than hitting us with meteors, tsunamis, earthquakes, and massive problems that can happen through the ring of fire, tectonic plates moving. You've got to remember that this planet back in the day used to be Pangaea. It used to be one continent. Wherever you are around the world, have a look. If you're South African and you're living in Western Australia, doesn't it look pretty much like Africa? Well, it used to be connected to Africa. And this is the type of thing that can happen now. There have been thousands of polar shifts during the history of the planet. You know, people have been expecting polar shifts for the last 50 or so years. And that means the North Pole instantly becomes the South Pole and vice versa. That will have a massive effect on the planet. That will kill more people than what the coronavirus will. So we're very, very lucky and blessed to be able to have something that's given us the chance, you and me, the chance to sit back and go into our conscious minds and say, what have I done to cause this? Not somebody eating a bat or an armadillo in China. That's just a key starting point. That's just a tipping point. But what have you and I done to live less than consciously, to not look after our planet, to throw rubbish out our window, to be disrespectful to our fellow human beings, to be less than accompanying of other religions, other diverse cultures, people who may carry more weight, people who may carry less weight, people who may be mentally handicapped. All of that stuff that we have done throughout our whole lives, and I'm just as responsible as anybody else, is the type of thing that has brought the planet to bear and said, this is enough. I'm going to give you guys one more chance. And coronavirus literally is our one more chance, or things are going to get a heck of a lot worse. And guess what? If you think they're bad today, they're going to get worse. I personally think that countries haven't done enough. I personally think that the leaders have used this to grandstand and to smile and to say everything will be all right, but it's not all right, and things are going to need to get worse before they get better. But it's okay, folks. The darkest hour before the dawn. You know, we're suffering on this planet from overpopulation. And, you know, whilst I agree with some of my really great friends and people I've worked with for many years, that if you fitted everybody on this planet, all 7 point whatever billion of us, into somewhere even the size of New Zealand, then we could all live quite comfortably. That's true. And whilst, you know, everybody talks about deforestation and killing the Amazon, I too know and understand that most of the oxygen on the planet comes from grass, and there's plenty of grass still on the planet. We are simply overpopulated. And in certain areas, this is becoming definitely a massive problem. But there's a good side to this as well. In many Western countries, we're actually seeing that change now. In countries like Switzerland and like Germany, we're actually seeing depopulation happening. And, you know, even in countries like Australia and the UK, the natives of that land, meaning the people that have lived there for 100 years or more, those populations are declining. Yes, they're increasing from an influx of people from other countries, but the world is increasing. Now we need to look at this more steadily. We need to be responsible. You and I need to be responsible. So if you're a grandparent watching this, it's your time. Live the life. People who are 20 years old aren't going to understand what's happening at the moment. You've got the experience. It's time to counsel people on what they should be doing on the planet. And so I find this fascinating when we look at the role of money. And yes, my retirement fund, my investments have been hit just at the same as you have. But when you look at this role of money, I'm fascinated to see these governments roll out rescue packages of billions of dollars now for our coronavirus. But where was this billions of dollars 6 weeks ago when it could have been put to good use to solve some of the issues that are causing us to head into this greedy, manifesting of material items way that we've been doing? Governments, you quite frankly suck, and it needs real leadership to actually stand up at the moment. And the real leaders are not the people who are currently in power. I'm not seeing anybody really truly lead. The leaders are you and I sitting in our lounge rooms at home, deciding what's best for our life, what's best for our family, what's best for our community. So with that, the role of money is changing. In my new book, Conscious Leadership, which I was going to launch next month, but I may hold it off now, I talk about the role of money and how money is created. Did you know that even today, the American government can print money based on nothing? Why can you and I not do that? And what currencies these days are actually fundamentally underwritten by anything at all? In fact, most countries on the planet, their currency is not underwritten. They can choose to take money out of the system or put money into the system. So if your retirement funds dipped by 30 or 40% in the last week, as mine's done, where's that money? Money is just like energy. It doesn't disappear, it simply changes form. So think about how you can control your wealth and think about what is your wealth going forward. And to be quite frank, most of you have more than enough wealth sitting up here and in your life experience than you'll ever need to get through 5 of these situations in your lifetime. And hopefully this will disappear soon enough. So I've talked a little bit about these guys, the government. And I really think that if you've got any sort of role in government, if you're listening to this, or any sort of influence, it is time to take some drastic measures. But I don't see the drastic measures as closing schools and then allowing kids to go to school whose parents are in essential services. That makes no sense to me. We're going to see over the next 6 weeks, as governments have failed to react, we're going to see a lot more problems with people having the virus in the countries that have been slow to close borders and slow to test people at borders. I travelled literally just last week and I wasn't tested in a first world country that's apparently at the top of their game for this. So, we can expect countries like that to be so much more, and we can expect countries in Africa probably to be so much better at controlling the influx of this because they're used to diseases, Ebola and things like that. So be aware, just because you're in a first world country, you may have to take a few more precautions and you may not be able to rely on your government. Now is the time for conscious leadership. And conscious leadership literally means you, me, becoming more conscious and leading the world differently. So what does that mean? It means 5 things. It means purposeful vision. So I know a lot of you in business are scared. You're wondering, are people going to keep paying? Are people going to still want my product? What is it? You don't need to be scared. You need to be active. You need to reassure clients. You need to be involved with people. Hell, most of us have been living off the fat of the land for the last umpteen years. I can't tell you in the industry that I work in the speaking industry, 83% of speakers sit and wait for the phone to ring. Guess what? You may actually have to do some work these days to actually, have some income coming in. So purposeful vision is number 1 in conscious leadership. And what does purposeful mean? It means looking past the next 2-3 months. It means you have an opportunity now to redesign your business and your life to become more simple, to become more self-conscious, to become more self-sufficient, to deal with the types of clients that you want to deal with, not with clients that are egotistical, arrogant, and running you around. The second thing is, after purposeful vision, is that you need to be collaborative in your mindset. These are the days when, we can come together. Our competition is no longer our competition. Our competition now is beautiful collaborative partners. We need to have values-based leadership. Number 3, values-based. If you've not done a values exercise for yourself in the last 12 or 18 months, or maybe never, now is the time to sit down and look at what your true values are. And you may find, and I think many of you you'll find that you've been living outside of your values. So I'll give you an example of that. One of our values is freedom. Freedom is a tough value for us right at the moment, having to stay sort of self-isolated. But freedom means freedom from restrictive clients, freedom from businesses that restrict us, freedom from contracts that restrict us. So therefore, some of you also have this freedom value, but you're sitting with contracts you don't want, clients that you have to turn up to every Monday, maybe even a job that you have to go to. Now's the time to reassess all of that. And the last 2 values in conscious leadership, or should I say the last 2 ideas in conscious leadership, are making a difference. And this is such a wonderful time to make a difference, to inspire the people around you, whether it be to simply get on and do a Zoom call, leave some WhatsApp messages, ring your family, ring some people you haven't seen in a long time, ring some of your old school buddies and have a chat and make a difference. People are suffering at the moment. People are unsure. People are living in fear. False evidence appearing real. And lastly, of course, the fifth part of conscious leadership is leaving a legacy. And I've been saying for as long as I can remember that most people leave a legacy on this planet. Well, everybody leaves a footprint on this planet, but most of our footprints really aren't very good. We leave the planet in a much worse shape than what we came to it with. So I think this is my question for you today. Because of COVID-19, because of what you're facing in your own life at the moment, now is the time where you have an opportunity to make a decision. And the decision that you need to make and that you should make is, will I leave the planet in a much better space than what I found it in my life? And have I done that so far? And if you haven't, now is your time to talk. I see some of the texts here, and I've been avoiding them because I've been trying to give you eye contact. Thank you, Dave Greenberg. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, everybody. And hi to Shane. It's great to see you on the call here. So, have you made an effort to leave this world in a better place than where you found it? And if you haven't done that, by adding value to other people's lives, to the lives of the animals, to the lives of the earth herself, to creating a body of work that can help the future, to educating your family and friends and those around you in positivity and in seeing the brighter side of life and all of that, then now is your time to do it. And as I wrap up this call, there's three final things that I want to talk about. And the first two are the sixth and seventh sense. Of course, we all know the five senses: sight, hearing, touch, which we're not allowed to do at the moment, taste and smell. But the sixth sense, of course, is intuition. It's that gut feel. And if you understand anything about electromagnetics, one of the four forces of the universe, that's a four, along with push and pull and gravity are the other three forces, electromagnetics is one, you'll realize that we are just electrical beings. As I said before, basic quantum physics, all matter, which is us, comes from light, and all light comes from sound. So the ancient ones knew this, and they tried to keep us in a balance. And we balanced by meditating, we balanced by doing breathing exercise, we balanced by standing in stillness. And guess what the planet's getting us to do at the moment? It's not saying run around and be frantic, it's saying be still in your own life. So your intuition, which comes from your gut, is where all of this wiring comes together in a circuit board behind, about 1 inch behind your dantian, behind your belly. And that's a fantastic place. So rely on your intuition. Don't use your head, use your heart, and then break it down with your head. Your heart has 5,000 times the electromagnetic pulse of your brain, proven by science. So therefore, now is the time to live in your heart. Sixth sense. And then the seventh sense is quantum. That irresistible jump between now and the future, where we simply can't work out what happened in the middle. It's time to actually trust those messages that are dropping down, snapping down to us from the quantum universe. One of the messages that I've been given very, very strongly over the last couple of days is to sit here on Facebook Live and talk to you about these things. And those of you that know me don't know that I don't tend to sit on Facebook Live. And whilst I'm incredibly opinionated, of course, as those of you who really know me know that I don't tend to share that with the general public too much. So you need to trust exactly what is going on in your life at the moment and the messages that you're getting. If your message is to ring somebody from school that you've never rung before, that you knew when you were 4 years old, then ring that. If your quantum message to you is to dial a psychic for the first time in your life and hear what they have to say, then that is something that you should do. Listen to those quantum messages, listen to the gut, trust your heart so much more than you've trusted your head, because your head is what has got us in this mess. My head, your head, has created coronavirus. We are conscious beings living a conscious experience, and we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. And this is what all of our souls have requested, to have this physical experience in this lifetime, to have this isolation, to have this fear. We have requested it. We have brought it on. And that just brings me to my final point there, which is mindfulness. And I have to be honest with you, I can't stand that word. I really think it's the most overused word in the hyperbole new words of the last decade, mindfulness. But I decided that I would use it today because Quantum told me that's where I should finish. And meaning that we need to become more mindful of our footprint on this planet, number one. Mindful of the way in which we too could be carriers or spread this disease to our loved ones and to the general public at the moment. We need to be more mindful of our greedy side, the side that just wants to want and wants to take more. We don't need to have more. Most of you listening to this on Facebook Live are already living incredible lives. What more do you need? Why don't you use this time to go on a journey of self-discovery? You know, the basis of conscious leadership is not to try and save the world, it's to go on the journey of discovery inside. So with all of that said, become more mindful, trust yourself, be more careful at the moment, be prepared to hunker down for a few months to come, because this thing's going to get a whole lot worse before it gets a whole lot better. You know, your governments are just run by people who really don't know much more than you do as to what to do. So trust your gut, trust your heart, and you'll be better off at the moment. Thanks everybody for watching. We may do another message some other time if you would like that. Bye.